Hale here with Alyssa Smith, of course,
Hey,
joining
Corey.
us for the rest of the show. And right now, one of our Microsoft-sponsored segments is with our own CEO, Jon Steinberg. John, of course,
good to
we
be
love
here.
having you here. We don't see you here very often like we used to, John. We miss you.
I'm running back and forth. I spend more time on the subway than anybody, I think. No, but it's good to be up here. I think I'm up here tomorrow again, too, actually. But I'm excited to do this Microsoft segment. I was flattered when they asked me to do it. So let's get into it.
Yes, let's get into it. I know you're here to talk all about post-cable networks and how exactly Cheddar fits into that.
Yes, so, I felt like we needed a different category to explain what we were doing. And I saw a bunch of other companies doing things that were similar that seemed to fit into the landscape, and we needed a name for it. And we're not a website, and we're not a digital player, and we're going into all these skinny bundles like Sling and Amazon, and even like Pluto, where we made a big announcement today. And I liked the term post-cable network, because in many ways I feel like we're more like a cable network than we are like a website. But post is what comes after cable networks, and I would put us in that category. I'd put what Tastemade is doing. I'd put what Barstool Sports is doing. It's a whole way of kind of reinventing the delivery, the style, the sentiment, the topic coverage universe, because these cable networks have audiences that are so old, and obviously 70% of our audience is under the age of 40. And they're watching us on all these new platforms.
Do you put it in the same category as like Vice and kind of what they're doing as well, or is it a slightly different?
I think to be a post-cable network, you have to be linear and you have to have a large amount of live programming. I mean, Young Turks would be another example, which is a liberal political news network that's similar to like an MSNBC, I would guess. They do a lot of live. They do 2-3 hours a day now on YouTube primarily. No one's really doing the full kind of 8 hours, going to 10 hours that we're doing. But I'd put anyone who's doing that in that category. I mean, Vice is sort of a challenging one because in some ways they're a digital company and a traditional cable network. I kind of have to think through, I guess, how they fit into it a little bit.
So in the future, do you see it people are watching Amazon, they're watching Netflix for like hours on end, and then we're fitting in a little different spot. Tell us about that.
Well, I talked about that. And guys, in the control room, can you guys call in the control room from here? Do we do that here on the show?
We can.
Are you guys going to show any of these slides? When are you showing these? I came prepared with presentation materials. When do they show my slides?
Plenty of full screens for you guys. Yep.
Are you going to show us the full? As I talk, just put in the full screens. I believe that, okay, so this is I'm going to get to, now he's putting up a slide which is not related to your question. This is why I think there is a place for these post-cable networks. This is the decrease in hourly viewing by age cohort over the past 6 years. So you can see people between the ages of 18 and 34 have dropped their viewing about 40 to 50 hours of traditional television. And Alyssa, to answer your question now, I think that in the future, people will watch Netflix and Amazon for on-demand appointment viewing. You sit down and you watch episodes of Stranger Things. You sit down and you watch House of Cards. You watch Transparent. I think there's another category of content. We use the term ambient or background. It's the content that you put on while you go about your day. You look up if something catches your eye. Like right now, as we're talking about this, and this is on the screen, this will be on people's Vizio televisions, Pluto, Amazon, all these different places. Some people are seeing this right now and seeing people under 60 do not watch TV. Those people will put on the volume or they'll turn and they'll look at it. You have the dogs on a second ago. I mean, dogs is kind of a bad example because everybody loves puppies. So there probably was a lot of people who said, like, well, what are they talking about the puppies? If you do a segment here, a food-related segment, some people find food technology, food delivery utterly uninteresting. Some people will turn it. That's a distinctly different form factor than sitting down to watch Netflix or Amazon.
Right. John, today, Twitter saying that, hey, we're going to eventually ramp up to 24/7 live broadcasting coverage. How does that fit into your post-cable network strategy?
And so I didn't know that was coming out. I didn't know that Anthony Noto, their COO, was going to make those comments. Twitter is one of our best partners. And they have chosen to be the place where the world turns for news to see what's going on. I think it fits in incredibly well because people don't go back and watch Cheddar. People don't go back and watch CNN. People don't go back and watch CNBC. If at 2 o'clock you heard something happens in the world and you want to see what's going on, you go to Twitter, you go to Cheddar, and it's our responsibility to be timely and talking about things that are changing and impacting our world. We can dip in and out of planned types of things, but like right now, for example, if Microsoft announced that they were buying Twilio, I'm just making something up here. We would be talking about that right now, right here. Our viewership would expect that. When Yext went public on the Florida Stock Exchange, our viewer expects that. Twitter works very well for that. What's happening in the world right now? And so I found the comments that they made to BuzzFeed in the article and were reiterated on the earnings call inspiring. I think it's very simpatico. I think Twitter is the place for ambient video content.
And so how do you think we're captivating these young, business-savvy audiences?
I think that it's in terms of the content and the programming, and I also think it's in terms of the delivery. So we don't do oil and power. We do a little bit of oil and power. We do a little bit of industrials if there's something truly dynamic and exciting happening. But we tend to fit to the topics that are most interesting to our audience: technology, media, entertainment, Amazon, Airbnb, Netflix, Google, Facebook. Cars is, and then we see unexpected things. If you told me we'd be doing 2 to 3 car stories a day when we got going with the company a year ago, I would have said no. Because there was Tesla. No one was really doing self-driving at the extent that they're doing now. Now, every major auto manufacturer is doing that. The people that watch our programming, there's a good shot that a lot of them will not be driving cars 10 years from now, right? Those of us that are at the upper end of our viewership demo, our children are very unlikely to be driving cars. It's an exciting, dynamic story. The cars run into things without people being hurt, most of the time. An Uber tips over. Self-driving Uber tips over. You can't make this stuff up.
Right, John, I really like that first full screen that we had that showed the viewership numbers going down. Maybe we can see that again, because I know we talk about traditional broadcasts having that only went down 18. We're not getting that full screen back up. It only went down, there we go, 18 hours.
Yes.
My question to you is, then does the post-cable network situation become ubiquitous in terms of Facebook, in terms of trying to get as many people in terms of on like that sort of platform, on those platforms you mentioned, on Pluto, Vizio, watching those sort of things? And do we forget about maybe that demographic that still loves traditional broadcasts?
I think it's very similar to the newspaper situation, which is it took longer than people thought, and a lot of the people that were doing print newspapers made the transition to online with varying degrees of success. New York Times is still around online, very successful. Wall Street Journal is very successful. BuzzFeed's around. Vox is around. Vice is around. A lot of newspapers went out of business. I think that we will see that same dynamic happen here. Some people will migrate to these new platforms. And look, there's questions even about Facebook, and is that a monetizable, viable place for high-quality content to be in? I mean, we've taken the view that in short sampling, it can be, but people like Sling and Amazon and others and Pluto are places where people go for this dedicated type viewing. One of the announcements that we made today, actually I was grateful that Pluto made the announcement this morning, is that people watch us on Pluto, and a lot of you don't know Pluto. I thought it was 5. They announced 6 million people a month. That is their TV viewing experience. The NBC properties are on there. Bloomberg is on there. Young Turks are on there. We're on there. Tastemade is on there. Our average view time on that platform is 34 minutes.
Wow.
Okay, 34 minutes. People do it on their Vizio TVs. They do it on their Rokus. People are not watching things on Facebook for 34 minutes. So that's unbelievably exciting. This is another view of it. I like this one better because it has lines. You can see right here that the viewership is done in percentages. The little lines in the boxes, those are hours. The right axis is percentages. So you can actually see it's 30 to 50% declines in overall viewership over the time period.
Yes. All right, John, we do have some questions for part of our Microsoft segment. Skyping in a few people from the Skype TX booth over at the NAB conference, which is going on right now in Las Vegas. All right, guys, let's get to our... Hi. Can you hear us? All right.
I can, loud and clear.
I can hear you. I can hear you.
Go ahead.
I was just wondering, do you think that traditional media can work with PCNs in the future?
Well, first of all, thank you for your question. I really appreciate it. I think that traditional media has adopted technology and partnered in some cases. I mean, actually, one of the really dynamic things is part of being a PCN, I think, is adopting new technologies aggressively and technologies that can be scaled. We aggressively use Skype. We use that before Microsoft even became our partner to pipe in guests from around the world. And traditional cable networks have now done that more and more on BBC or CNN. You see people Skyping in as opposed to the costly, complicated setup that people would have to go to in a studio location. So I think to the extent that traditional cable companies choose to adopt the technology, they can compete and incorporate. But many want the world to stay the same. And in many ways, the future is less monopolized, less lucrative, less concentrated than this new world where it's blown open. I mean, one of the things I've talked about is our total cost of beginning to broadcast from the floor of the New York Stock Exchange was under $750,000. That was our total CapEx expenditure. I mean, you couldn't buy a handful of traditional broadcast cameras for that price. And to be honest, Skype was a part of that setup. And part of the reason why we were able to do so many guests is we were able to pull them in. We use this box called Skype TX, which is actually an enterprise-grade solution to it. But, you know, it's a question of adapting or dying, I think.
Excellent. Thank you very much.
All right, I think we have another question from the NAB conference. All right, she's coming in. Hi, go ahead and ask your question.
Thank you so much. That was very interesting. I just was wondering what you sort of see as the next evolution in the way younger people are consuming content.
I'll give you an answer that I think is kind of novel. Most people think that all of the consumption is going to be on the phone, and everything is geared now for short, little content on the phone. I believe that when you look at the prices of flat screen televisions and how dramatically they have dropped at this point, I think that everybody who gets an apartment and goes out on their own is going to get a flat panel television for less than $400 in some cases. They're going to hang it on their wall, and they're all going to use these connected services. And the TVs now come with a service called Xumo, which is in 60% of the smart TVs manufactured right now. We're on that. You know, more and more you see Pluto bundled into TVs as well. You can get a Roku. The cheapest Roku now costs, I think, $19. Our friends at Sling TV, our partners at Sling TV, offer a product now where you can connect an HD antenna and get your on-demand programming and get over-the-air signals. We're broadcasting now because 7 million digital antennas were sold last year for people who want to cut the cord. I think TV, I think screens on walls in homes, that's the next big thing.
Perfect. Thank you. I won't get rid of my TV.
Don't get rid of your TV. Well, how do you watch now? Do you have a cable box still? Did you get rid of cable?
Yeah, no, I use my smart TV, and it's been invaluable. I sync all my streams.
Look, I mean, you know, look, our friends at our friends at Microsoft, a lot of people use gaming consoles. It's amazing how many people use an Xbox, and you know, just to be fair, you know, people use PlayStations as well too. I mean, basically any piece of hardware in your home now is a better cable box than your cable box.
Great. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you so much, of course, to Jon Steinberg, our CEO, and all of those live at the NAB conference for joining us today.
I feel like we should start introducing Jon. Can I start as founder and CEO? Because I feel like we don't ever throw in the founder title. But we should. You know why I say that?
Because we do that all the time to guests.
I'm just happy to be a guest.
Jon,
well, thanks for being our guest today.
Thanks for making sure the lights stay on.
I haven't done this. It's so funny to be interviewed by you guys. It's like a bizarro type thing.
Is
you know? I mean, yeah, because like it's a little bit like it's like being like a customer in the restaurant where you're normally like a cook. Like it's very weird.
It's like undercover boss.
It's like undercover boss. I should have done it. I should have gone and gotten like a thick beer. What are they doing undercover boss? First of all, if you're on. How could anyone ever be fooled by an undercover boss?
I don't know.
I think you could easily be fooled if you came and they made you maybe one of those
little
nice
contour,
fat suits or
little makeup.
changed your hair color.
Every undercover boss character is the same character. The guy, he's like I was a roadie for Aerosmith, and now I've decided I want to come and be an executive at Waste Management. You know, how do I do that? Like they always like make them look like really like rough, like kind of like Harley Davidson, right?
Very true. Very true. Maybe we'll test it
Next
out.
time we'll do that with you.
Now they want me to leave.
Yeah, they're kicking you out.
It doesn't matter if you're founder or CEO, they still tell you when to leave.
They tell me to leave. Okay.
Okay, well, thank you so much for joining us. Coming up between bells, a look at the coolest videos being honored at this year's Webby Awards. But first, some